What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fine, Eric Sheetshaver. We're going to be talking about this Wednesday baseball slate. I did not have much luck last night. I actually did okay. I think I bounced back because my small single entries almost won it. I had a lot of everybody could feel good about their stacks last night. That was the thing because pretty much everybody got there. My Pittsburgh stacks felt good. The A's stacks felt good. The Boston with the chalk felt good. And then Sheets, you were telling me just before you had ended up squeaking out a profit on a night that looked grim. Some of my favorite nights. So talk quickly about that, and then we'll get into the slate.
Yeah, so I remember the good thing is I kept on coming back to it, throughout the course of the last whenever we went over the slate, and I kept coming back to Seattle, and I put my money where my mouth was, and I did play it in the 888, and I was like literally dead like the whole night across the board, and then the Cal Raleigh Julio Rodriguez show just kind of got me there. Who did I end up with my big buy? I ended up with Sale Scherzer after all, and it was enough. Again, wasn't enough to contend or anything like that. You had to have Boston, I presume. Actually, not true. Pittsburgh, this guy had. That's right.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
I wasn't coming up with the Jay Bart Grand Slam. I just wasn't. I don't think it was going to happen.
He was in my biggest buy-in.
Oh, serious? Jesus.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough.
Man.
Yeah. So that's good. Nice little night. Well.
Listen. I'm not going to lie. It didn't really be profitable or anything like that, but at least it saved the day. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's nice when you feel like you're not going to get anything to turn it around. I guess.
Just a couple of announcements too. We have so I guess we'll do like a golf preview after this, and then we'll do it live at 6:00. And then remember the golf tournament starts at 2 a.m. So what I figured I would do is I'm going to do a live sweat at 11 p.m. where I go through the baseball lobbies, and then I'm going to do a live lineup build for that Scottish thing. I did tweet it, and I actually put it into the Discord as well. But if you could retweet it from the TrueDFS account, which I still didn't put in there, yeah, that would be great. And then we have the normal stuff coming up with the MMA over the weekend. After a week off, we have NASCAR coming up. We have LOL every day. I won that. That's 2 days in a row. Actually, I chopped second yesterday, and I won it, and I chopped first today.
Oh, beautiful!
1700. Yeah. So it's a good little, like I say, you need a hashtag cushion sometimes to get
right
to buffer these baseball slates. I played a couple of lineups in that massive. I didn't even realize it was a 5-game WNBA slate. That started 11 this morning. Didn't even realize, and then I was able to put sheets up for it. It was like almost all the tournaments were dead before when I noticed. I played like 7 lineups in the lottery, and I took the last 7 entries, I think. That were in the lottery, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Soccer, another showdown of the showdown slate of the Euros. It's 3:00. I'll probably end up firing that. What I ended up doing, by the way, I'm sorry to take some time about this, but
no,
I treated, unfortunately, that was the first time I ever played Soccer Showdown. I treated too much like NFL Showdown, and people within the soccer. I'm in the RotoWire soccer Discord. They were saying, listen, you don't have to be like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's 700,000 teams. You know what I mean? It's only like 5,000 or something. So I'm doing like min 1 of like bench players, whatever. And I just presumed that like the most popular bench player would be like 20% owned, and the most popular bench player was like 4% owned. So today I'll be a little more direct with what I want to do over there. But a lot going on though.
Yeah, and one thing I remember from the past when I used to do the soccer stuff, like from way back with the World Cup and the Euro Cup, people had such a hard time because not knowing who was going to play and the shifting and all the stuff, and it changes game to game with that stuff. I think it really is okay to embrace some variance, but you don't need to go necessarily with the bench variant. You could take, the defender will be there the whole time that only moves up maybe once every 3 games, but it's only going to be 2% owned, and you can get 2% owned guys in a thing like this because you've got 22 options. Actually, you've got more than that. You've probably got 30 options. Anyway, we can get into today with the started off for the Dodgers and Phils, Sanchez and Gavin Stone. And what looks to be
first of all, I would like I don't see any real weather issues for the whole slate, which is good to see. I mean, some yellows, but like nothing really to concern myself with right now. So here's what I want to look at. So I really don't like anything in this game, but just to kind of show you, and these are the things that I talk about, and I don't have any real data to back it up, but it comes back from my old way I looked at horse racing and all this stuff. I mean, when you have guys that put up ceiling freaking performances in all sports across the board, they're just very, very prone to get something like this happen to them. It's just the way things go, and Stone with listen, I know the matchup was a lot harder, obviously, to play the White Sox in Arizona, but yet still, I mean, two things. Number one, you should expect it. And number two, you should not get concerned when it happens, So if you liked Stone and you thought that he was getting his act together and you're doing whatever, don't just say, well, he just got shellacked by Arizona. He was kind of.
Well, you could say the same thing about Christopher Sanchez. Look at his game log. Look at his last 2 games.
Let's take a look.
Pretty wild. Because he put up a monster.
Perfect. I mean, literally, like it doesn't have to, like, perfect examples, So it's, listen, it's something to think about. These are not machines,
Yep.
And whenever a living, breathing thing exerts itself more than it has or it's used to, it's naturally prone to require a little more recovery than usual, and that's just the way it is. Okay, with that said, I really don't like anything in this game. I don't have Stone or Sanchez anywhere near the top of my list, and I actually don't have the Dodgers anywhere near the top either, which is obviously always very concerning because the Dodgers are really, really good. But maybe I'm kind of making the slate a little too small. Like I only like 4 or 5 stacks. So I guess anything else could be considered a pivot, but I didn't really get to either of these two right now.
I think that's reasonable, 4 or 5. Like I think you could make a fringy case for both these teams. I would probably lean slightly on the Dodgers a little bit over Philly, but I think it's very close if you wanted to go that route. I don't have an issue with it. It's not a priority for me. Not planning on playing a bunch tonight, but yeah, I wouldn't mind ending up with a little bit of both sides of this game. It's 88 degrees, 16-mile-an-hour winds out to left, good hitting weather. Actually, if Philly's got their full lineup, I think I can make a case for Philly here too. So I actually do think these teams are both very viable today. Maybe just on the outside, maybe they're not the top 4, but they're definitely two I'm considering. All right, Oakland, Boston.
Okay, so I have with Oakland, Boston, I have Pivetta as being one of the top pitchers on both DraftKings and FanDuel. And it's really funny. Like yesterday, it was another really, really good take for me as far as pitching goes. I was saying that Bello against Oakland, I can see him just getting through the win easily, but doesn't have a lot of upside. Then he ended up with 11 strikeouts in 4 innings and didn't get through the 5th. So good take sheets. Nonetheless, I do like Pivetta here against Oakland. And Boston, once again, I mean, just they're showing up as one of the top stacks. Now, again, you're a little more, I don't say positive, but a little less, let's say a little less negative on JP Sears than some people are.
That means I've been right about 70% of the time this year.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think about this because Boston, I imagine, is going to show up as a very popular stack here. So I do like Boston. I do like Pivetta, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's Fenway. It cracks me up just for years thinking about all these baseball ridiculous old school thinking people, and they're like, oh, but this will change the history of the game if you do this. This will change the history of the game. I mean, how about changing the history of the game? The fact that guys who play in Boston, hit 30 points better than they do at Dodger Stadium. How about that they have 25% more power? How about things like that? You're playing all different size stadiums, but you're worried about the history and the integrity of the game.
Wait, what are you talking about with the history?
Because I was listening to a bunch of, I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about all the ways the new influence, all the new numbers and things changed baseball, and all these kids are running organizations now, and all the old school guys were really hesitant to believe in any of it. Like even like OBP was not a thing. Walks was like not a thing to most people until like the 90s or early 2000s. Just funny to think that. I just think it's every time we do a show, it's not that Boston is always such a great lineup, but they are in the one of the best hitters parks in the world, especially during the summer. It's 82 degrees. You got 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left. So I was sort of trying to use it as a lead in, just that. Yeah, I like Boston, but it's not like I'm like going, oh my God, can you believe this lineup? It's fine. It's just it's fine. And Sears, I have a little more respect for than most people do. Okay, I'm not talking about playing him. I don't really want to play the mega chalk Boston. So I will try to avoid, I guess, playing a ton of it. Maybe it won't be quite as bad as I think tonight. But I don't think I want to play a full Boston stack. I do like Pivetta, but I would wait to see what Oakland's lineup is. Currently, they're projected to only have 3 lefties. Pivetta really struggles with lefties, and it's weird that they wouldn't be able to throw out more than 3. So I like Pivetta, but if I'm not using him, I would play guys like Lawrence Butler as a one-off or a mini stack with Butler, Soderstrom, and Blade. Like those 3 guys are super cheap, and they all have the lefty advantage, and it's a great park upgrade for them. So while I like Pivetta, I do think that a mini Oakland stack I would consider. I just don't want to go with what I think is going to be, again, the popular Red Sox, although I could be wrong. There's some other stacks that people are really going to like tonight as well.
Well, it's interesting, as I just kind of scroll through the Boston lineup here. I mean, there aren't that many righties against Spears here, so I'm very not surprised, but I guess I'm a little surprised that they're projecting as well as they are.
I think that they're going to have more righties than currently being projected, right? But it's possible.
Who's any good that would be? I don't know.
Well, it doesn't matter if they're good. Dominic Smith isn't good, and he hit a home run last night. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball. I don't know, one of the worst, maybe an exaggeration, but he's not a good hitter anymore. Yeah, it's true. They don't have a ton. And Sears, by the way, actually has like a reasonable strikeout prop. And if this game was in Oakland, I would consider playing a guy like Sears a little bit, but I'm not going to do it in Fenway. Guys, I don't know about the 2-gamer in the morning, but I don't think there's a whole lot of strategy involved. I haven't even looked at it, to be honest with you. So maybe we could touch on that at the very end, but I'm not ready to do that yet. Colorado, Cincinnati sheets.
Yeah, so this is it's a common thing, So basically, whoever is pitching against Colorado is going to look good in the projections, and Frankie Montas is today's customer. He's it's last time in Colorado, he was like my hero. I think I won something that night with Montas. He had 36 fantasy points in Colorado. That's how bad Colorado can be. Because Montas is not great, okay, to say the least. And even though it's not exactly back to back, I would be a little cautious on playing what I think is going to be one of the 3 highest owned pitchers on the slate in Frankie Montas. Certainly looks to be, one of the top options on the slate, and he's going to be bid up in that sense. As far as the hitting goes, the Reds look like one of the top stacks on both sites. It's always a little fishy. I mean, to underestimate Freeland, he always has some tricks or whatever. But Cincinnati's ballpark isn't that much worse than Colorado's, honestly. So Cincinnati's going to look pretty good here. So chalky Cincinnati, I'm a little more down with than a chalky Montas. I think. I mean, what you think Colorado's that bad that Montas should be the top owned guy or no?
I don't know if he'll end up being the top owned guy, but I do think he's a good option. And I feel sort of the opposite a little bit. Like I'm just always going to be more comfortable with pitchers that are chalky than I am with hitters. I don't really care about chalky pitchers like basically at all, unless it's like a really glaring thing. And as much as we say Montas is he's not bad. He hasn't worked himself back into his old form or anything. But I mean, the last time he faced this team, he put up 36, which obviously would be the highest scoring number on this slate, most likely. And I'm fine with Montas, but I also am fine. I mean, there's other guys we'll talk about that I think you could totally consider in the same vein. Maybe he's a little bit better than they are, but I don't think it's a big gap either way. I don't have a lot of love for, again, it's just I'm going to say the same thing I always say. If you got a bigger slate, I don't know if I really want to play this chalk. Like that's where I'm at. So I'm not all that excited about like, 1,000,000% owned against Kyle Freeland, who, is as much as he struggles historically, he's always been a guy who actually pitched okay, like could hang in there at Coors. This year he's been a little worse than usual even. Not that he's ever been great or anything, just that I'm just talking about limiting damage or whatever. So I certainly understand the Reds, but I'll treat them like I do the Red Sox on this day. There's there's teams that are going to be chalky that I like better than them. So if I'm not going to play this chalk, so I can play the chalk in the next game we talk about.
Well, So you tell me. So we have Severino against Corbin, and whenever you have this matchup like this, two things are always going to be true. Like people are going to stack against Corbin, and people are going to play Severino. They just always do. And they usually play pitchers against Washington anyway. So you're going to get some ownership on Severino, not as much as maybe normal because he's got lit up in his last start, among other things. And the Mets, I will just say that they project to be the highest raw points guy on the slate for me. Not by much, but by but maybe just a little bit ahead of Cincinnati actually. And I don't have them as owned as much as some other teams. They're certainly owned, but not as much as maybe I don't say they could be. But I don't have them even remotely close to Boston or Cincinnati, or even Texas, really, as far as ownership goes. So I don't know. Corbin, like I say, Corbin has tricks, and it is always very, very frustrating, to try to stack against him. Because look, he doesn't really do anything, but it's not like he gives up like 7 runs. You know what I mean? He gives up 3, 4, 3, 1. And aside from this game,
in all fairness, I think he's had the worst ERA in baseball like 3 out of the last 4 years.
Okay, I'm just saying. I mean, he's got, and 2 games ago he gave up 2 home runs. Listen, last time against the Mets he gave up 3 home runs.
And he gives a ton of stolen bases too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Mets are going to look great. I mean, really, for me. And God forbid they end up lower owned than those other 3 teams. Probably be my top team. The other thing I will say again, it's definitely a record heat index today. Here. I don't know if it's going to continue into the evening, but it's very, very hot out. And that might impact, maybe they'll get more home runs, or maybe they'll get less stolen bases. They don't want to run as much in the heat. I don't know. Anyway, Mets, as far as Severino goes, he doesn't rate to be one of my top options. So I'll just let other people play him, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Severino. Like, it's not even that he's been necessarily bad. He just he can't strike anybody out. And I like literally is like the worst strikeout pitcher in baseball which is not the guy we knew before. So I don't know what's going on with him, but I just can't touch it right now. I think this is the easiest, most obvious stack of the day. And I love that it's not going to be the most popular. The Mets have had a lot of experience against Patrick Corbin. Let me just read you some of the numbers real quick. So 220 the guys who will play today, 221 at bats. Okay, that's a lot. That if you get over 100, that's a lot in modern day baseball. You don't usually get that many. 220 at bats. What has he walked? 20% of the hitters. That's absurdly high. He has not 20%. I'm sorry, only 10% of the hitters. He struck out 18%, and he's given up a home run basically to every 14, 15 hitters. So basically he's the greatest hitter of all time, hitting 312 against him as well. They also have 12 doubles, so 26. So an extra base hit 1 out of every 8 at bats just over his career. And that's not like saying this means everything. But I just think this is a spot first of all, Corbin, it's 81 degrees. Like you said, it's warm, it's humid, and the wind is blowing out big time, 20 miles an hour to left field. I just think this is such an easy spot. And again, it's baseball. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but I'm gonna attach everything to where when I think there's a spot that's being under-owned, there's a chance I might only play Mets stacks tonight. I feel that strongly about them. Just again, it's baseball. There's high variance, but I'm not going to be playing a ton of lineups, and I think that the Mets are what I'm going to do basically pretty much everywhere. I just don't see a reason to get away from a spot that I think is really good and being way under-owned. And I know Corbin. He can have tricks. He can do this and that or whatever. They let him throw a million pitches because he's making. I think he's the 6th highest paid pitcher in baseball, which is shocking. One of the worst contracts actually probably the worst contract in Major League history. I'm all over the Mets. Let's lock them in. I'm just going to be playing different variations of that depending on how much I play tonight. All right. Sorry, I just had to go on my little Mets spiel. What do you got for the what's the next up? The KC and St. Louis?
Yeah, so we have Waka against
Gracefo.
That's what we're gonna call him.
I don't know. I just said it, but I've heard the name before, and for some reason I can't remember.
Well, we got to figure this out because I have him as one of the top 5 pitchers on the slate. So we got to figure out who this guy is. whether he can strike anybody out or whatever it is. So it's not like 4K. You know, he's where did he get? He pitched against Cincinnati. What, they let him go 4 1/3?
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't really say too much, I guess. I don't know. I'll let you comment on him, but he's showing up as a play here. I think nobody knows who his name is, so I guess that helps also. And I'm not getting to any of the hitting here.
Yeah, I think he might end up being like, there's a chance he ends up being like the highest owned player on the
Oh, really?
Okay. Which is just a little bit like, okay, we probably should like consider something. He's been good in the minors. I don't know a whole. I know like a little bit about him. I know that he's got some hype. He's supposed to be good. I haven't really dug into all the Cardinals things. I feel like every time a Cardinal has a new pitcher coming up, they all say the same thing. But he's been solid. Not amazing though. It's not like his strikeouts are overly 70 strikeouts, 75 innings. I don't know. I think he'll be stretched out a little bit more. I'm gonna take a quick look at the. See, okay, so here's where you get the numbers. And here's what I promise, Sheets. As I promise with basketball all the time, when certain numbers will come down, I can promise you he's right now. Saberson has him at 91.63 pitches. I'm going to guess that other projection sites have a similar number for him to be projected this highly owned. I think that number comes way down. It doesn't mean he can't throw 91 pitches, but I'm just saying for that to be his median here, I think is a ridiculous proposition. It's his second start. His first start, he threw 67. I think 80 would be like the natural number it'll probably come down to. And I think when that happens, his projection will come down. And I think it's going to balance out throughout the industry. Because you've got him at 26% in your first run. And I just think that that's like too high for what is just a totally high variance situation. But there's not a lot of, these mid-tier arms. He would be the guy instead of Montas. You've also got like a good, a Kansas City team that's not like, they're not bad, man. This is a solid enough team. So I have him on my list. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. As of right now, I'm putting Montas ahead of him because I like that matchup better. But I am definitely considering him. But I would bet you that by the time we look at the end of the day for Saberson, what their projection is on number of pitches that he throws, I don't. Right now, he's projected to throw more pitches than Waka. I don't think that's going to happen. And by the way, Waka is probably Waka's return to St. Louis. It's too many years after for me to try and stack against him. But man, he frustrated me in St. Louis, and he's probably a reasonable option just as much. So both these guys are on my list, but neither are priorities. All right, next.
Yeah, so we have Miami at Houston, and I mean, my analytical discussion of Framber Valdez is ouch. I mean, what's happened to this dude? I mean, I don't pay attention each day, but I guess he throws a decent game every once in a while. But this is not the same guy. This is I don't need any heavy analytics or arm angle stuff to know that this is not the same guy. And for years since we've been doing this, it's been consistent. Every once in a while a ceiling, but usually a middle of the road, middling cash game guy that you could always count on. Whatever, jam him into FanDuel because he was guaranteed 7 innings or whatever. And just the results are just not bearing it out this year, So I don't know what that's all about. And he's going to come in. I mean, I think at the end of the day, he's probably going to be the most popular pitcher on the slate.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So because he still has that name value, and he's still in Miami, still has the anti-name value, right? And it's at Houston and all of this. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go play Miami or anything like that, but oh, maybe you do. I don't know. This feels like somebody you're supposed to avoid. I don't know. And as far as the hitting goes, Houston's on the outside looking in just a little bit, but again, I'm only highlighting the top 5 for the purposes of this show anyway. So yeah, Valdez is going to project really, really well, and it's a decision you're going to have to make. I mean, I know you can go back. It's so funny. Who posted this? I forget. Somebody posted. I think your boy Ehrenberg, whatever, posted this. That baseball projections are less about the last couple of games and more about like long-term talent and stuff like that, I guess. But I don't know. I'm a little. I think his results this year are very fishy.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess I agree that something is. I don't feel like it's the same thing as it is with what's his name, where I think there's something really wrong. Who I don't remember who we were talking about.
I think we were talking about Snell, but he did all right yesterday.
Yeah. No. But Snell was injured. We were just talking about him a few minutes. Oh, Severino. I just can't. His strikeout rate. That's the thing that really threw me off. So I'm going to take the opposite on Valdez tonight. Miami is the worst. What's Valdez has struggled with this season is he's been walking people in a rate that he's never done before. It's kind of shocking actually because he really has had really good control throughout his career. He could get through innings fast. He was a good and a good enough strikeout pitcher, slightly better strikeout pitcher than Max Fried, to where his strikeouts have gone down a little bit. That's been part of the problem. But the real thing is those walks are getting him in trouble. Now you have Miami, who's the worst. They walk the least against lefties of anybody in baseball. They have the 5th highest strikeout rate in baseball against lefties. They have the 3rd lowest average against lefties. I'm going to just take advantage of it. And I'm also going to trust Vegas in that I think Miami might have the lowest total on the slate. I think they do, along with Toronto. It's Miami and Toronto. So I am in on the Valdez personally. I feel better about all these guys who I used to be on the fade train with, the Pivetta, the Montas, and the Valdez. Those are my 3 favorite pitchers so far. So it is what it is. You can only play the guys that you have the option to play. So that's where I'm stuck with them. All right, Pittsburgh, Milwaukee.
Yeah, so the only person that's showing up here is I'm getting a little bit of Myers, just as like a 5th or 6th best pitcher, I think. So you'll have to tell me a little bit more about him. Not really getting to any Perez, and hitting wise, again, both these teams just kind of look like they're on the outside looking in for me. You like anything here as a priority?
So with Myers, I'm still up in the air. Like I think that it sort of fits into a similar category as the Gracefino, or if I'm saying that right, I'm sure I'm not. But Myers has actually been like consistently pretty good. For some reason, and I'm not quite sure, they've got him projected, and this is another thing that I expect to change throughout the day. He's projected to throw 80 pitches or 81 pitches right now on SaberSim. That's as his median. I don't really know why that's his number. I guess as a median, it's okay because he's had a couple games where he didn't throw that many. But like one game he threw 66, but he only threw 6. But he threw 6 innings. But you know what I mean? It was just one of those games where he worked through the lineup, and then for whatever reason they wanted to go their closer 7, 8, 9. He threw 101 pitches his last start in Colorado and was actually pretty good for Colorado. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. He's on my list. I don't like to stack against Martin Perez because for years it was the most popular thing in the world to do, and it almost never worked. But I would say that like Martin Perez, the last time he faced this team, gave up 5 home runs. They've got a bunch of guys who are good against lefties. I'm open to the Milwaukee idea today. So I think Milwaukee might be my next favorite after the Mets of all the teams we've talked about so far. So whether you stack them fully or not, you can always play like the Hoskins, Adames, Churio, or something like that. If you don't want to fully stack, you can play Contreras as a one-off, as a spend up at catcher. It's a pretty good bet. I like the idea of getting to some Milwaukee tonight as well, is what I'm saying. All right, Angels and Texas.
Okay, so
here comes again. What do we do with Griffin Canning? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, to illustrate this point, a different point, he has 2. No, he doesn't have 2. He's got a couple of others. I was going to say his only good outings have been against Oakland and Seattle.
Yeah.
He can throw pitches, which is actually kind of good for the Texas stack. You know what I mean? Like they want to keep him out here for all 100 pitches or whatever. Like this Milwaukee game here, I'll sign on for this. You know what I mean? I'll sign on for this game. Texas looks to be one of the top stacks, and kind of hard to ignore that. Let me look at Lorenzen. I didn't really get to him. So basically none of him, and I'm not really getting to the Angels either. So Texas, popular, well projected. It's best I can say.
Yeah, I feel like I must have judged Lorenzen a little too much based on his past, just because I always feel like I want to stack against him naturally, and he's just good enough to where it hasn't really worked out that well this season. If you tried to do that, trust me, I've tried. I do like Texas against Canning here. Again, another guy who's just fallen off the radar. We'll play him against the Seattles and the other, the teams where he can find his way into some strikeouts and have decent games. the White Sox, that kind of a thing. I'm not going to do it against Texas, and I like Texas. So I have Texas as probably, if I was going to stack another full team, I would have them number 2. And I think Milwaukee would be my number 3 of the teams we've talked about right now. For what it's worth, it's the warmest night so far this season at Anaheim projected, 83 degrees, which for Anaheim is pretty hot for an evening game. 5-mile-an-hour winds out to center. Sounds good to me. I'm in. Let's play some Texas here for sure tonight.
What's the weather like in this in the Arizona? Is like the roof open or is it closed or what?
I'm sure you know what's weird is the site that they use that I always checked out if the roof is open, they stopped announcing it. And I don't really know if it's like, are you so stupid? Would we really? I think it might be one of those like, of course we're not going to open the roof. Yeah, it's not. So they did for the next 2 days, but they hadn't before. Yeah, it's going to be closed. But I think they're saying like, look, guys, it's 120 degrees here. We're not going to open the roof and kill these guys.
Yeah. So I have Morton sort of like, alongside of like a Severino type. The price is a little different, but yeah, I mean, he could have a good game, I guess. And so it's so funny. It's so funny. Like we're thinking about all these other pitchers. Every one of them is kind of like yuck. And I shouldn't say it like that, but it's not like there's any lock situation here. So yeah, I guess Morton's in play. Ciccone, no thanks. The reason I asked about the weather is I wonder if I'm supposed to play some Atlanta just in case they decide to start hitting. I don't really have them projected all that high, but I always have this. Maybe I'm biased still from last season, I guess. So if anything from this game, probably maybe a little Atlanta, maybe a little Morton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that that's my same take on the game. It's not nothing wowing, but like it's Morton is totally viable. I have him behind Pivetta, Montas, and Valdez. But if you wanted to go a different route, I have no issue with Morton. And I also think that Atlanta is completely playable. I have them written down, not as high as Texas, Milwaukee, and New York Mets, but they're on my list. And they're probably going to stay there and not on my lineups. But I certainly wouldn't mind, look, not only would I not mind any one-off, if I had a nice stack that I liked as a 5-man or a 4-man that I wanted to, or say I had a 5-man stack, but I had enough room to play like an Ozuna, Olsen, and Clinic, I would have no problem with that. It's not going to be like my desired result to get an Atlanta stack. Atlanta hits much better at home in general, and Arizona, when the roof is closed, is not as good at hitters, not even close, like not a great hitter's park. It's okay. So look, if you gave me some hot weather, so if you threw it in Atlanta and gave me an extra reason to play it, maybe I'd bump the Braves up. But I think they're solid. I think Morton's solid.
So at 11 o'clock tonight, again, I'm probably going to be doing the live lineup. The live look at the lobbies and stuff like that. And I'll say this, that there's a really, really good chance that I'm going to have a pitcher sweat going from this last game. Yeah. Both these guys, Bassett and Logan Webb, kind of rate out the same for me. They're like a little bit below the top guys. I don't literally believe this ownership. Like, okay, so I've seen Bassett 18%. I'm seeing Logan Webb like 16%. I really don't think people are going to have it in them to play these guys like in this last game. Like Logan Webb at 9,800. I don't know if people are going to actually have it in them to do that. Maybe Bassett will get 15, I guess, but I think they're going to be lower owned than the top guys. And at least I know what I'm getting with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I know if I play Bassett, you get the occasional good Bassett game, and San Francisco can occasionally give up a bad game. You know what I mean? Something good. Logan Webb, you'll get his consistent thing, and every once in a while, Toronto will let you do something. So, in a weird way, I'm a little more confident. At least I know what I'm in for with these two guys, and maybe that is what's maybe that will boost their ownership. Now that I'm thinking through this, so anyway, I do like both these guys as called pivots, called whatever. The lower owned options of the obvious. Listen, there's Montas, Valdez, Pivetta. Then people, I don't know what people are going to do with the Gracefo. I agree with that. I think that pitch count's going to come down. I think that his ownership's going to come down. But I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot on Valdez. There's going to be a decent amount of Montas and Pivetta. And maybe these guys go a little bit underappreciated. I don't know, but I like both these guys.
Yeah, lowest total on the slate, totally on the same page as you. These are my fourth and fifth guys.
Yep.
I don't even know which one I'd rank fourth, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're very close. Webb's a little bit more expensive. I like him a little bit better. Toronto with the lowest total on the slate, but also neither of these teams strike out a particularly high amount. What I like about the Valdez, Pivetta, Montas is you get all that strikeout upside, even if we don't love the pitchers. I just love the teams they're facing. So those are going to be my top three. I have the Mets one as a hitting stack by a bullet, like just by a long and away. Texas, Milwaukee are the other two I'm considering as my next one. And then Atlanta, and I forgot to mention, because I was excited to talk about Valdez, I forgot to mention the Houston versus what is sort of a semi-bullpen game. Maybe it's because I want my money back from yesterday. That was like the one stack that didn't come through. I think Houston is a reasonable play in the situations against, lousy long relief bullpen. So, but mostly it's going to be the Mets, Milwaukee, Texas, maybe some form of Houston, Atlanta, maybe an Oakland mini, but the main focus is going to be the Mets.
Yeah, I'm going to start. I'm building one right. I'm doing a SaberSim build right now. I'm curious to see kind of when I get to it. It'll be done in like 2 seconds here. Checking out these WNBA lineups. I played 7 lineups here. You know what I didn't play? I didn't play any of the Caitlin Clark. The only Clark I have in my upcoming exposures.
How much is she? How much is she on there? She like 10K or something?
Yeah, she's up there.
Yeah. I mean, she puts up numbers, so it's like I get it.
She does. She definitely does. I ran projections, just didn't play her. Okay, so I'd be getting all the Mets. This is before we do any simming and stuff like that. Actually, all the Cincy. So Cincy, Texas, Mets, and even when you look at the whole pool, Texas, Cincinnati, Atlanta. Hey, there you go. Milwaukee, Mets. With respect to pitching, let's just see. Montas would be, of the top 50, he'd be in 60%. Then the Gracefo, but again, that projection has a bit of fragility. Then there's Pivetta and Bassett. Hey, how about a 10%er of JP Sears? How about that?
Wow, so
I don't know.
Boston does strike out against lefties.
Yeah, something like that. So listen, I'll do, when we run this at 6 o'clock, I'll do some more sims and things like that. Because again, it's kind of, I want to see what happened with this Gracefo projection over the course of the day, and the ownership as well. But listen, I think there's some very logical teams you could play here. Really, like Mets. Mets makes just so much sense. Mets against the bad pitcher, right? And you know where you're going to go. You'll probably play the righties and throw in Alonso, right?
Right.
Lindor, I consider a righty for the purposes of this, right? You'll end up playing JD Martinez. Even the Vientos is pretty good. You can play the catcher, the Alvarez. Easy to play. Cincinnati, easy to play. Texas, easy to play. So those are going to be, I think, the three that take the most. Boston, I wasn't getting too much of, if anything. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to so that's without the Sims and everything. So they'll just running sort of like their pure thing.
Yeah,
where they like the Cincinnati and all that. And I agree that I would too. The problem with Cincinnati is this, again, for me, it's just going to be the ownership factor.
Yeah.
That's that. But I hear you. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be coming back with a golf show pretty soon. As far as I was hoping I could touch on anything from this morning slate, but I don't really know what there is to touch on.
I literally didn't look.
Yeah, I don't really have anything either. It's literally the 2 games from yesterday that got canceled.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and all the pitchers seem reasonable.
Wait, when is it starting? Like 10 minutes?
No, it's at 10:45, 1:45 Eastern. So
should we do something? Should we run something?
We can talk about it for a second. Yeah, I mean, we've got the Fetty and the Ober conversation we were having a little bit yesterday for at least a minute. Let me just make sure this game is clear. Yeah, they're clear today.
Man, they're playing the slate though. It's almost sold out already.
Yeah, people really wanted to play these 2 teams or something.
They really wanted to play. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just would get different regardless of who I used pitcher. Even if I used Ober, I wouldn't even have a problem using two bats against him. Like, I just don't feel that confident in anything here. Ober is the logical thing. I think you play some. I think you try to get to some White Sox. Maybe only one with him. I guess it would be like Robert or or Sheets or Pham or something like that. Maybe Vaughn. And then I would probably lean Alec. There's really not a way to get it different that I like. I wouldn't be playing it myself. But let's see what Sheets is coming up with.
Well, this is actually kind of, no, I'm doing some stuff using the Sims for the main slate and all kinds of nonsense, like in the Freeland Waka pairing. It's like
you can't lose Freeland Waka.
I mean, what else? I mean, obviously we're going to play Freeland and Waka. Question is what else to play with them? That's the only thing.
Yeah.
You want to let's see what this is. So let's build something. Just again, show process with the 2-game slate, the early slate. Let's just see. All right, we're only going to use. I didn't even do sheets for it, so we're just going to do the Sabres and projections. We'll make a couple of changes. And again, first thing to realize when you're doing a 2-game slate is not contest sim settings in the lineup rules. Hold on, let me just make sure. It does not check don't use your opposing pitcher, so you might end up getting it.
You should be happy with that in this one.
Oh yeah. So let's just see. We build 50. Well, we'll build 5,000 lineups. See what we get. And this is if I were playing. This is what I would start with anyway. So what is this game? It's Ober and Fetty, and then Marsh and who? Palante. So I guess I suppose that that Kansas City would be the top stack. No,
I don't even think anybody should think about stacking on a 2-game.
I guess so. That's true. It's a 2-game slate.
It's just too weird. But Kansas City actually would be the lowest. I think the team that would be on the most would be maybe St. Louis,
Minnesota, maybe
total.
Yeah, maybe.
That Mason Wynn, man, he scores fantasy points too. He just doesn't hit home runs. He just gets a lot of stolen bases.
The other thing is you have to think about whether you wanted to intentionally leave money on the table in a 2-game slate. I don't, but
really?
I mean, not intentionally. I mean, if I get it, great. But in a showdown, I would probably force it. But
yeah, that makes sense. I'm just taking a quick look at something else here.
See. There's 11 spots. There's no way I'm doing that. There's like a 333. I'm not doing that. 2-game slate without having done no research. So we have. It would be getting if you just ran it straight. It'd be mostly some Minnesota and Kansas City guys. But to your point, let me see what the stack exposure would look like. This is pretty sick, actually. Like 75% of the 50 lineups would be full 5-man stacks. That's like sort of disgusting. On a 2-game slate, how could you?
I'm telling you, I think sometimes there's a correlation is just a little over the top. Like,
crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that.
I couldn't even imagine these. It's like.
But it makes a little sense, I guess, because you're not like it means you don't have to use it against your pitcher. But I don't know. For me, it just.
But they're not. I mean, the only thing they're using it against I think they're just pure old Kansas City and what was the other one? And Minnesota and Rocket. I don't know. They're certainly not going to be the optimal.
Right.
It's going to be whoever gets wins the one-off home run battle, I guess.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. So let's see.
If anyone even hits a home run, it's going to be might be like 5 guys who score 10 fantasy points.
Now let's just see for the hell of it. If I ran a sim here, what this would look like. Let's see if it would change anything. Specifically the correlation stuff. I'd be curious. Let's just see. It's 1 hour to post time. There are so the lottery's almost filled, thank God. So I won't be able to play that. Yeah, that's done. And I'm not. It was good. So I'm not playing the 333, and so I'm not playing anything. Excellent. All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what it would look like using the Sims. All right, so first of all, the teams are different. Now we're getting 100% White Sox and 80% St. Louis. But let's see again where the stack exposure is. Once again, though, 70% 5 threes. You know what I mean? Not even 5 zeros. They're so confident that they know exactly when it's coming in. It's going to be 5 3. and then a 4 put on 4 fours. So I'm glad I'm not playing this slate, because I wouldn't like these builds anyway. I would like to at least. It's funny, you know. I play LOL like all the time, and LOL is the most correlative sport there is. And even with LOL, when you run the original SaberSim builds, you get like a bunch of non 4-3s, which it offends your senses like even more. Because and yet still, like baseball, they just love these 5-3s. So we'll see who wins. You know, it's not going to be me because I'm not playing. So,
Yeah.
But I would be very surprised if a 5-man stack won. How about that?
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to take a quick couple minutes and then we'll come back for golf?
Yeah, we'll do golf. Let's just keep the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to show up at 1 o'clock, you know. So we'll do that at 1. And I did my first best ball draft, by the way.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
Well, what I did was, I mean, I took a list, right? You got to start with a list, right? So I started with a list of the best players, I rated by whatever, and then I just did my best to mix in taking the best plays and trying to find correlation, you know, because you need to do really well, and especially with those week 16 and 17, if you make it that far. So that's what you're supposed to do, is just make sure you find, you know, some kind of stack or whatever. So what I did is I just basically just started the first 3 or 4 picks with just the best players available, and then just tried to fill in stacks as best as I could. And we'll see. But it felt good enough. We'll see what happens. And the good thing is like you have to do all these things. I mean, like manually. I mean, there's no way you could automate it, but it's really, really poor to do that. So it's kind of cool. I mean, there are people that do hundreds of these things. Yep. All right, that's pretty much all I have. I will see you guys. Well, I'll see the Spaceball guys at 6, and I'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll see you then. All right, guys. Good luck.
Okay, later.
And don't forget.